Now, for some time, Craig Murray had been speaking about how this entire relationship, the relationship between Scotland and really basically England in the Union, was an international matter. It's not a domestic matter because it's governed by a treaty between two nations. That's an international agreement. And despite the arguments of Westminster that the treaty had been replaced by the Acts of Ratification, that the Scottish Parliament had ceased to exist, so did the English. And so now the governing act was the English Act of Ratification, the Act of Union. And therefore Westminster had all the power over that treaty. Now you apply that to any other contract and see what any judge would tell you. Under international law, Scotland has very particular rights. So I went back and looked at the provisions of that treaty again, and then discovered, as others have discovered before, that there was a condition to that treaty, and that was that within Scotland, something called the Claim of Right Act of 1689 would continue to apply after the Union. But it gives the people the final authority over their governments, monarchs, courts in Scotland. And as it was a condition of the treaty and of the Union, under international law, if we do not have that condition, if it has been taken away from us by a superior power, political power, then we have been reduced to the status of a colony. Then, under the definitions of a colony, which are very simple in the UN, a non-self-governing territory, then we are a colony. And we are very happy for the UK government to answer that question, whichever way they like. What matters about the terms and conditions is this issue of the sovereignty of the people of Scotland. The absolute final authority has never been a Scottish Parliament, a Scottish King, or even the highest court in Scotland. It has always been the people. And that means that it has to have a mechanism. It has to have a body, just like in Switzerland, they have the constituency. But what that means is that once that is recognized, now we're playing on our field, by our rules. We're not playing the only game in town, which is the card game run by a card sharp. And our game has to rest on something entirely different. We don't play that game anymore. So that is what Salvo and the Liberation Movement are about. It all comes down to this issue of the sovereignty of the Scottish people.